Matt Nicholson with producer John Myers.
So close. Yeah, we soldier on without producer John. Matt and I are going to, well, we have to because it's what we do. We're going to give you the latest on John Force. We're keeping you updated on that as he continues to go through this really long process, and it is unfortunately a very long process. We'll kind of dive into that in a bit. We'll also give you details on the latest 2025 schedule release. Yep, we got another one that came out this past week. Got a divorce from the Xfinity Series, and at the same time, we got new marriages in the Cup Series. Yeah, more than one. We'll tell you about both of them. What's up with electric car racing? We're not really talking Formula E either. Dale Coyne Racing continues to spin the who's driving for us this race wheel. Is Toyota ready to go racing in another series? Maybe. If the rumor, and I repeat, rumor is true. All that and so much more on this week's CRN. Next.
Stay right here for more. On the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back in. We officially welcome Matt Nicholson into the show. Appreciate you. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, whether you're on our flagship radio station or joining us on CRN Live on YouTube. We do appreciate it. It helps if you put pause on that. Duh. Anyway, racing last weekend. Chicago. Year number 2.
Gonna keep judgment quiet.
For how long? That's the question. Because
not very long.
We'll put it this way, and we saw one of the comments on CRN Live on YouTube. you and I, during Crossed Flags this week, our podcast, which, again, check it out, CRN Live. And if you haven't subscribed to it, please do, because that's one of the best ways, truth be told, for you to be able to know when it is that we're going to be doing that. Anything that drops new, once you're a subscriber onto CRN Live on YouTube, you should get a notification on it, unless something's gone weird.
Right.
Just put it that way. And it may not be your fault. It may be the fault of YouTube. It may be the part of the page. I don't know. But, yeah, if you want to kind of get a good idea or a primer on a good idea of what exactly Matt and I think when it comes to the street course racing at Chicago, you need to watch this week's Crossed Flags. We may revisit that to a certain extent. That being said, Saturday, Shane Van Gisbergen, Kyle Larson, even Ty Gibbs, they really did make the best of that situation. You want to talk about putting on a clinic.
They really did. That was kind of more, I guess you could say, an old cartoon thing. A cartoon theme that was more like an episode of Tom and Jerry where SVG was Jerry toying with Tom and Jerry always gets the last laugh.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what that was.
SVG led early, and then after battling with the Moonlighter Kyle Larson, got back out front late, claims the win. He's now got 3 wins on the year. Think about that for just a second.
Not surprised.
SVG with the win. Moonlighters Ty Gibbs and Kyle Larson second and third. Parker Kligerman fourth. Jesse Love fifth. Rest of the top 10. Connor Mosack with a nice run. Austin Hill, Moonlighter Joey Logano. We were talking about him last week. He was filling in the AM Racing number 15 car, which we'll get more in detail on that.
Oh, I got to say, stand by on that one.
Yeah, because here's the thing. With all the changes that they are making over there at that 15 car, they may not have made the right one. Justin Allgaier, Austin Green, filling out the top 10. So with the win, as we noted, SVG, 3 wins. That dude is now the top seed in the Xfinity Series playoffs. Okay. I'm interested to see what he does. 2 wins for Chandler Smith and Austin Hill and Sam Mayer. Justin Allgaier, Jesse Love, I should say, locked in with a win each. In on points right now. Cole Custer, Riley Erbst, AJ Allmendinger, Sheldon Creed, Parker Kligerman, and Sammy Smith. And Sammy Smith is not what we would call comfortable. 23-point lead over Ryan Sieg for that final playoff spot. So, yeah, still a lot of work to do. We'll find out whether or not he's able to claim it. Sunday morning over in Britain, the top 3 qualifying spots locked out by British people. That was a very popular thing, by the way. If you watched qualifying, you know.
It was.
George Russell, Lewis Hamilton, and the Mercedes locked out the front row. Lando Norris was third in his McLaren, though a very, very popular deal. During the race, weather became part of the story, and it caused a switch from racing slicks to intermediate wet tires and then back again. NASCAR taking note. When all the tire furor was over, it was Lewis Hamilton out front, but noting that Max Verstappen was growing larger and larger in his mirrors, in the end, the laps weren't enough. So Hamilton actually gets his first win since the end of the 2021 season. Think about that for a minute. This is your all-time wins leader in Formula One, and he had not won since the end of 2021.
Yep. But it was, I would say, arguably one of the more popular wins in motorsports in recent memory.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Absolutely. Verstappen second, Lando Norris dropped back to third. Oscar Piastri, Carlos Sainz, Nico Hulkenberg with back-to-back top 6 runs. Lance Stroll, Fernando Alonso, Alex Albon, Yuki Tsunoda filling out the top 10. Formula One's off this week after having run 3 straight weeks. Those guys need to talk to NASCAR. Verstappen continues to lead the points over Norris. That gap now sits at 255 to 171. Charles Leclerc at 150 and fading. Carlos Sainz 146, 124 for Oscar Piastri. Sergio Perez continues to sit at 118. That man just cannot catch a break. George Russell 111. Now Lewis Hamilton adds 25 to his total. He's up above 100 with 110. And filling out the top 10, you go from Lewis Hamilton's 110 down to Fernando Alonso, who has 45, and Lance Stroll, who has 23, and just on the outside, looking real close at jumping in, the aforementioned Nico Hulkenberg's got 22.
He's climbing.
Yeah, he is. Red Bull leads in the Constructors' Cup over Ferrari, 373 to 302. McLaren's got 295. Mercedes now holds 221. Then in fifth, it's Aston Martin. They got 68. V-Carb holding 31, but Haas F1 is up on the move now. They've got 27. Alpine 9, 4 for Williams. Sauber remains shut out on the year. There was a pretty cool article, by the way, if you're curious about what's going on with Haas F1. Both Formula1.com and Racer.com have a couple of articles on the resurgence of Haas F1 and how not only does it seem like the personnel, but their upgrades are really coming in to their own.
The upgrades are getting...
They're getting results.
Their upgrades are being done exactly in a way that's calculated to get results, not just to say, hey, we threw an upgrade on. Let's cross our fingers and hope it works.
Yeah, exactly. The hybrid era of IndyCar began last weekend officially. The answer to the trivia question of who won the first race of the hybrid era, Pato O'Ward. O'Ward was able to fend off points leader Alex Palou over the final laps, claims the win by the slimmest margin of victory this season for IndyCar, less than half a second. Scott McLaughlin was third. Colton Herta, Marcus Ericsson, Alexander Rossi in there, along with Christian Lundgaard, Kyle Kirkwood, Christian Rasmussen, and Santino Ferrucci. I wasn't able to watch this race, and we talked about this for a quick moment on Crossed Flags, and I'm going to mention it here as well. We were wondering about the growing pains of the hybrid system and whether or not there was going to be a major problem. And it caused something of a mental red flag to me when you basically told me very early, right after the race had started, that Scott Dixon, 6-time champion of the IndyCar Series, was already out of that race within the first, I don't even know how many laps.
It was actually on the warm-up lap.
Okay, and that made me go, oh, maybe we got a bigger problem with the hybrid system than we thought. Turns out that may have just been an isolated incident.
It was isolated. What happened is the capacitor on the hybrid system, that
not the flux capacitor,
not the flux
just
capacitor,
the capacitor,
actually failed, and there was a short in it or something that caused it to not work, and it was hampering the entire performance of the engine. So what they did is they took him behind pit wall, and they let them replace the capacitor, and to go back out and get laps in, because with him being in the championship fight, he wanted to maximize all the points that he could. Well, when he got back out, he was 21 laps down.
Ooh.
He was making laps all that he could, and in classic Dixon fashion, he would get out of the way, let everybody that was racing for position just go.
Yeah, classy move.
He was out there just, and nobody had, Aaron Likens, the chief starter, I never saw him give him the layover flag. He would get over out of the way naturally and not even have to worry about it.
Yeah, some drivers kind of automatically sense that sort of thing.
Right. So what he ended up doing was he was 21 laps down, and once they saw that he wasn't going to be able to gain positions up because the attrition was extremely low in this race.
Yeah,
he just parked,
non-existent for all intents and purposes.
He parked the car, I think, with like 15 to go. He parked the car and called it a race.
I mean, at that point in time, being 21 laps down, you're not going to make up any ground.
Yeah,
so it does make sense.
But outside of that, the race was very, very clean, and the entire hybrid system ran pretty well, if you ask me.
All right. Palou continues to lead in the points. He's now got a 329 to 281 point lead over Will Power, and thanks to the bad day for Scott Dixon, Power retakes second place. Pato O'Ward actually moves up above Dixon as well. He's up to third with 259, Dixon 258. Colton Herta fifth in points, 248. Those are the guys that really have the best chance at claiming the title this year. Linus Lundqvist continues to lead in the rookie standings, 128 to 104 over Christian Rasmussen. Kiffin Simpson's got 97. Teo Pourchaire remains in fourth with 75. We're going to keep an eye on him for maybe a race or two more, depending on whether or not he gets a ride. If he gets a ride, we'll certainly keep him there. If he doesn't get a ride within the next race, maybe two. I might extend it out that far. We'll probably drop him because at that point in time, he's got no chance. Nolan Siegel is climbing. He's got 45 points so far this season. Has he got a real good chance of winning the title? Probably not, but it'll be interesting to see how his pursuit goes.
Sure.
And Chevrolet has retaken the engine manufacturer lead over Honda. It is now Chevrolet 718, Honda 714. Then Sunday, Chicago. All eyes were once again on SVG and Kyle Larson, and we needed to look at the skies, unfortunately, because Mother Nature came to play again. It wasn't as bad as 2023. Heck, not much would have been. But it still prompted NASCAR, despite this being a street course, despite that meaning the fact that they had the wet weather package available, they red flagged the race for a time. I thought that's why he brought the tires and the windshield wipers and all that other stuff. Change tires, like they do in Formula One and IndyCar.
Yeah.
The guys that have been doing this for a while and the guys you're actually apparently trying to emulate some. Figure it out, would you? When it was over, neither Larson or SVG were factors, not necessarily of their own doing. Alex Bowman, he was the one Hendrick Motorsports driver without a win this season and therefore not locked into the playoffs. He finally comes through, holds off the 45 of Tyler Reddick, gets his first win in 80 races. When is a hot seat at Hendrick Motorsports? I mean, does he feel like the temperature was starting to turn up when you're winless in 80 races and all three of your other teammates have at least one win and are locked into the playoffs? Or are you just feeling pressure?
It's more pressure.
Okay, it's not a hot seat. It's just pressure.
You got to really pull in a downright, straight up choke job, I think, for your seat to be even remotely warm at Hendrick.
Yeah, and I say that, and I'm just kind of throwing it out there because there was a lot of talk about this, and I heard a number of interviews, whether it was MRN or PRN or SiriusXM satellite radio or any number of other entities that were interviewing him, and they all seem to be coming up with the same thing, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I never heard of any real pressure being put on him.
Yeah.
And here's the reason why. It's not like Alex Bowman won a race 80 races ago, wins this race here, and in between, he was like running 30th every race.
Yeah, I mean, some of the bad luck he's had this year was not of his own doing.
Yeah. So he was competitive during that time. It just, sometimes you don't have the luck of being able to grab the win. Mm-hmm. Tyler Reddick, second place, Ty Gibbs, third, then Joey Hand. Go figure. Michael McDowell, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Todd Gilliland, William Byron, Kyle Busch, Ryan Blaney fill out the top 10. The win means now that 12 of 16 playoff spots are spoken for. 3 wins for Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, William Byron, and Christopher Bell. Single-time winners are Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, Brad Keselowski. There's Alex Bowman, followed by Joey Logano, Daniel Suarez, and Austin Cindric. Drivers that are in on points, they're now down to Martin Truex Jr., Ty Gibbs, Ross Chastain, and Chris Buescher. Now, Chris Buescher is kind of on the bubble. He holds 521 points. Outside is Bubba Wallace with 476, so not quite 50-point difference there. But, we talk about how the fact that basically now anybody this year, as long as they've attempted to qualify for every single race, they don't have to necessarily have qualified. They just needed to attempt to qualify for every single race. And you're full-time. You got a chance to get in. So they're really, if you don't have a win, you're not comfortable.
Right.
Just put it that way. So, again, Chris Buescher sits 16th, 521 points, just outside Bubba Wallace, 476, Chase Briscoe, 433, 423 for Kyle Busch. Todd Gilliland completes your top 20 in points. He's got 400. Points-wise, it's going to be difficult for anybody, probably really other than Bubba Wallace, realistically, to get in on points, but we'll keep an eye on it just because, well, that's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're here. It's why you listen to us or watch us, as the case may be.
That's right.
Tell you what, we're going to get to this weekend's slate, which actually began last night, but as we look at the old clock, we got to take a break. So when we come back, we'll talk about, again, this weekend in racing. It's not a humongous list of races. In fact, it's very American-centric. We'll detail that, talking about how it began last night up in the mountains of Pocono. With NASCAR doing something that we complained about on Cross Flags about them having done in Chicago.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network.
Whether your pets have...
noted, we weren't able to get to the schedule just because we were talking about the recap from last week. So last night is when this weekend's of slate of racing began. Pocono Craftsman Truck Series and the CRC Brake Clean 175 on the Tricky Triangle. Race-wise, Matt, how did it go?
The race actually finished with rain threatening the entire time.
Okay.
Much to my surprise. And if I could click the right button, get the right results. I'm not with it today. Here we go. You had Corey Heim winning his 5th race of the year, cleaning house, basically, maximizing entire points. Grant Enfinger with his season best 2nd place finish. Christian Eckes 3rd, Taylor Gray 4th, Ross Chastain driving for Nice Motorsports in 5th. Chase Purdy 6th, Stuart Friesen 7th, Matt Crafton 8th, Dean Thompson 9th, and Rajah Caruth 10th. And you had Brett Holmes and Munford coming actually as the most positions gained. No, I take that back.
Close.
2nd most positions gained. Started 30th, ended up P12th.
Okay. And Pocono's one of those deals where, yeah, I mean, you get a chance to kind of work on your vehicle throughout the course of this, but if you miss, man, you're off.
Yeah, if you miss at Pocono, you're past the left field foul pole.
Yeah.
You're that far in left field, but that was a good momentum building run for them yesterday, getting some momentum back after a couple tough weeks.
All right, he noted it. Heim's got 5 wins on the year now. He's the obvious 1 seed at the time. 3 wins for Christian Eckes, 2 for Nick Sanchez, got a win for Rajah Caruth. They're all locked into the playoffs. On points now, Ty Majeski, we'll get to more on him in the news. He's the first one in on points. Tyler Ankrum, Grant Enfinger, Taylor Gray, Ben Rhodes, and Daniel Dye. Dye is the last one in with a 1-point lead over Tanner Gray for the final playoff spot. He's 4 up on Stuart Friesen and 57 ahead of Matt Crafton, so nothing is set right there. But the reason I talk about Ty Majeski and more on him when it comes to the points situation, we're now starting to deal with how those who are in on points can lock in their playoff position even though they haven't claimed a win.
Right.
That's how close we are to the playoffs there.
Right.
Xfinity Series later today, going to run the Explore the Pocono Mountains 225. It'll air on USA and MRN Radio at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central Time. You know, giving them time to get in just in case something goes whack, like weather.
To which I do believe that Fox Sports does not know the concept of.
Yeah. I'm not sure NBC knows it totally either.
Nope.
In the evening tonight, we head to Iowa, you know, a place that's got lights. NTT IndyCar Series running the Hy-Vee Homefront 250 on the Newton, Iowa short track. NBC and IRN Radio have coverage there, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central Time. Saturday's slate of racing begins with the NTT IndyCar racing their 2nd race of the Iowa Speedway doubleheader weekend. Hy-Vee One Step 250 airs on NBC and PRN starting at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central Time. So they're going to do an 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central Time race tonight and then turn right back around and do it again at 11 a.m. in the morning.
My God, looking at these these practice times at Iowa. Good Lord. Jeez.
There's your alarm, ladies and gentlemen. Then we go to wrap up the racing. Cup Series at Pocono. They will not state this full name throughout the course of the race. So here's your one chance that you're going to hear it all weekend. Quote, the Great American Getaway 400 presented by VisitPA.com. That'll be on USA and MRN Radio, 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Central Time. Formula E, Formula One, NHRA, they're all off this week.
Surprised they didn't put in the / Pocono.
Yeah, really.
180.
Give them a chance.
185.89 at Iowa. 185.89 at Iowa.
Yeah.
Slowest one, 174.13.
Stick around. We'll get to that.
Woo.
We'll get to that. We were talking about this hybrid system and how much more power it adds. And we were wondering what it was going to be like on an oval track. And remember, they just repaved the corners at Iowa just before the NASCAR race, which means what? Extra grip. We'll get back to it. But first things first, we want to start with the NHRA and probably will, if we get John Force updates like this, we'll probably lead off every single time. And for those of you who are just now kind of catching up, Force is continuing to recover from that really bad crash that he suffered at Virginia Motorsports Park a few weeks ago. And after being in a Virginia hospital since that crash, he has finally been released to a rehabilitation center closer to his California home. And he celebrated by, before leaving Virginia, taking his daughter Brittany out for ice cream, celebrating her 38th birthday. They put up a picture on social media. It was posted by Brittany. John Force sitting in a wheelchair, has a cast on his right arm, a right hand and forearm. But in the update, she posts, quote, most special birthday ever. After 15 days in Virginia, we have been approved to move to a rehabilitation center closer to home. They took a med flight from the Richmond area back towards California so that he could be much closer to home. Brittany's post also continued, quote, we also got to go outside for a stroll downtown, finally enjoyed some ice cream together, beyond thankful and blessed to celebrate 38 with my dad and loved ones. Thank you for everyone and for all the love you sent our way. God is good. You can see, if you're watching on CRN live on YouTube, the team's statement on his condition says that he continues to suffer from some cognitive and some behavioral symptoms from the crash, which caused what is termed as a TBI, or a traumatic brain injury. But again, he's talking coherently with the family and the hospital staff. Reports stated that he was at Virginia Commonwealth University Medical Center. Again, took that med flight to continue his rehabilitation. There is no timetable here, and there shouldn't be. Okay? You and I have said this. We've been on the record as saying it, Matt and I, and we're not the only ones. We're far from the only ones. That we hope that this does not mean the end of John Force's career behind the wheel, because no driver wants to go out like this.
Absolutely.
No player in any sport wants to go out because of an injury. And I've mentioned this before, and I'll mention it probably many more times throughout the course of my career, just because of the fact that I actually was watching this Monday Night Football game when it happened. Lawrence Taylor sacking Joe Theismann and snapping his leg, which ended Joe Theismann's Hall of Fame career, arguably.
All right.
You talk to Joe Theismann. Joe Theismann to this day will tell you that's not how he envisioned ending his career. And he didn't want it to end that way. But understand that certain things happen over the course of time, and your health is more important in the long run than even just getting one more snap or one more play or one more run down the track.
Sure.
But yes, we do certainly pray that John Force will continue down the recovery road. And the other reason that we can lead off with the NHRA is because they, like Formula One and Formula E and IndyCar already have now released their slate of races for 2025. It begins, as it has for the last couple of years, with the famed Gator Nationals. This will be the 56th running of the famed event, and that happens, as we already knew, because tickets are actually already on sale for it. Opening weekend for 2025 in the NHRA, the weekend of March 6th through the 9th. Then they're going to head west. March 21st through 23rd, it's going to be the Mission Foods Drag Racing Series going to the Arizona Nationals, and they'll end the month the very next weekend with the Winter Nationals in Pomona, California. April sees the first of the back-to-back four-wide nationals. It's the first one going to be at Las Vegas the weekend of April the 11th through the 13th, and then they're going to go to Charlotte's ZMAX Dragway to do it again April 25th through 27th. Into May, they're going to go from the 16th through the 18th, the Route 66 Nationals near Chicago. Final weekend of the month. Technically, it'll cross over into June. May 30th through June 1st, they head up to Epping, New Hampshire for the New England Nationals. June going to be fairly busy. 6th through the 8th going to be the Thunder Valley Nationals in Bristol, then to Richmond for the Virginia NHRA Nationals. That'll be the weekend of the 20th through the 22nd, and the weekend of the 26th through the 29th, they go to Norwalk, Ohio for the Summit Racing Equipment Nationals. July, 2 events, Northwest Nationals, the weekend of the 18th through the 20th. That's up near Seattle. And then the 25th through the 27th, they'll roll down to Napa Valley, California for the Sonoma Valley Nationals. Let's see, 2 more events coming up in August. Lucas Oil NHRA Nationals, Brainerd, Minnesota, the weekend of the 14th through the 17th. August 27th through the September 1st, the Crown Jewel event of the U.S. Nationals in Indianapolis, 71st running of that. And we say August 27th through September 1st, you say 4 days. Everybody else is basically kind of like doing 3, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's because everybody and their brother and all, not just the Mission Foods Drag Racing Series, but all the lower tier series within the NHRA show up for Indianapolis.
Everybody shows up.
If it's an NHRA sanctioned division, they're in Indianapolis for that weekend.
To anybody that's been to IRP, to the facility, and to where you got IRP Oval and the drag strip that's behind the Oval, when you roll in the main gate at IRP, there are drag cars from all facets, all the way from the main gate all the way around the facility.
Yeah. It's cool stuff.
Good grief.
It's cool stuff, no doubt about it. Into September, as we fully get into the month, the countdown to the championship six race slate begins. It'll start in Reading, Pennsylvania, the weekend of the 11th through the 14th. 19th through the 21st, they'll be back in Charlotte for the Carolina Nationals. Midwest Nationals in St. Louis the weekend of the 26th through the 28th. October, Texas Nationals the weekend of the 9th through the 12th in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Then October 30th through November 2nd, they'll be back in Vegas for the Nevada Nationals before they wrap up the season out in Southern California in Pomona with the In-N-Out Burger Finals, where all the champions will officially be crowned in all four divisions of the Mission Foods Drag Racing Series. So pretty cool schedule, not terrifically unlike what we saw this year. It seems quite similar, actually, in many, many ways.
Right.
What we don't know is this. We know that Top Fuel and Funny Car run every single event. What we don't know yet is the exact rundown of which races are going to be skipped by Pro Stock Car and or Pro Stock Motorcycle. They have not revealed that in full just yet. We will keep you updated on it because they don't run the entire year.
Right.
All right. Do we want to talk about the drama at AM Racing, or do we want to talk about the racing in Chicago?
Flip a quarter. It doesn't matter to me because I can go off on both of them.
Yeah. All right. We'll hold off on the AM Racing saga. I want to deal with Chicago here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to be a shorter form. If you want the longer rant, yeah, check out Crossed Flags. Check out the podcast from this week. CRN Live on YouTube. It's up there already. It's episode 18.
Yep.
But here's the thing. Again, I have no argument that the Saturday racing was good. I have no argument with it at all.
The Saturday race could easily be, and I'm going to word this very cautiously because somebody else may have a different viewpoint than I do, which I really don't care. I can debate you either way and die on the hill I'm going on. That road course race Saturday could easily be the best road course race that there has been in the last 5 seasons across all 3 series.
Okay. Yeah, I can see where you're going with that.
Because that was I labeled it as the cleanest, hardest race I have seen in a long time on a road course or an oval.
And then you get to Sunday, and there are numerous problems with Sunday. A couple of which I've already mentioned. The fact that you are supposed to be prepared for this. It's a road course, street course, short track.
Sure.
We've covered this from the beginning of the year when NASCAR basically said, yeah, we're going to be taking wet weather tires to road courses, our street course in Chicago, and specific short tracks. Bristol not being one of them just because of the high banking. So we saw them at New Hampshire. We've seen it at Richmond, saw it at Iowa. These guys are supposed to be prepared.
Sure.
To go wet weather racing.
Sure.
Why'd we red flag this?
Because of the puddles on standing water on the track. Okay. First off, class is now in session, Mark. First off, if you have vehicles that are not prepared to at least encounter some puddling, because there is no road course that I know of, there is no road course or street course that is ran anywhere that I know of that doesn't have some form of puddling, where it be minor or major. Major is a different story.
And
it's a different story.
And I'll say this. Again, this is a street course. Throughout the rest of the year, this is used by people who live in and work in and around the city of Chicago and people who go to visit Chicago, God help you. This isn't unlike going to Detroit in Indycar or the streets of St. Petersburg, or if you want to use Formula One for an example, going to Las Vegas or Baku, Azerbaijan, or any number of other street course places that they happen to run throughout the course of their years. Formula E is, for all intents and purposes, making a living off of running on street courses. Why is it that when IndyCar goes to a street course, why is it that when F1 or Formula E goes to a street course and runs on a street course, They don't red flag a race because of puddles.
Well, I think here's where it come back from. When they finally did a rain race at Coda a few years ago, and they actually ran. I'm not gonna count the Roval where they run the Xfinity race basically in a dadgum hurricane. It was pouring that race.
It really was.
Okay, did it make the race entertaining? Absolutely, it did. Because the pace got so slow, it was
comical.
It was figuring out whose fortitude was bigger. Let's word it that way.
It got to the point where it was kind of comical.
It was very comical. Then you get Coda, which was close to a situation like that. It wasn't raining quite as hard, but it was raining hard. And you had those those crashes going into, I think it was turn 8 or turn 9, maybe 10, where the left-hander back, where everybody at the high speed straightaway to the slow down part. You had a couple of pretty tough rear end collisions because of visibility. Okay, I get that. But if you're going to race in the rain, you have to mentally prepare yourself for those situations.
Sure.
You have to.
This is the same situation as you getting up in the morning and getting ready to go to work for your day, and you understand that, as opposed to sunshine the last couple of days, my commute's going to be rain. You have to mentally set yourself for that. Because you have to understand that it's not just you on the road, it's everybody else who suddenly seems to have forgotten how to race in it or drive in it, as the case may be. But it's the same mentality. Understand that this is going to cause a change in your way of being behind the wheel.
Sure.
And then once you do that, change the tires from the slicks to the dang wet weather package and let's go.
Yeah, but first off, you got to if you're going to run a rain package on a car and you're going to have flaps on the back of the rear tires, you have to run flaps that are not grooved to let more water fly out of it. You're supposed to deflect it, not slow it down. Okay. Secondly, where the race got red flagged at for the puddling was in the slowest section of the racetrack. Seriously?
There's a part 2 to this particular rant continuation, if you will, if you want to go back to Crossed Flags, our podcast where we started this whole thing. There is a part 2. It's not just the fact that they red flagged this, even though they were supposedly prepared for going wet weather racing. It's the fact that we suddenly started talking about something that we really don't talk about in NASCAR. Racing the clock. We'll get back into that when we get back.
Championship Racing Network.
All right, part 2. Chicago race weekend last weekend.
Part 2 indeed.
Now, again, we've admitted it. We both had the chance to see it. I got to see the Xfinity Series race. I didn't get to watch, except for highlights, really, Sunday's race.
Now, I want to put this disclaimer out first for the ones that are our newer viewers that are watching. I have encountered a NASCAR series race in the rain in Mid-Ohio last year, the Truck Series.
Yeah.
I spotted for a competitor in that race. That was painfully boring. Even though I had to keep my head on a swivel at all times.
Sure.
That was painfully boring because the pace was so slow. But in Mid-Ohio, my section of the track that I had, which was the exit of turn 6 all the way to the entry of turn 10, there was some minor puddling over 7 and 8 because I had my eyes on it, which was right at the chew zone.
But we've talked about this, too. I mean, there's a difference between trucks and cars.
There's a difference, too, between you run on a racetrack that actually drains itself off.
There's also that. But you and I got to talking about this, and you suddenly mentioned the fact that they were talking about cutting this race short, which they already did. Remember, year 1 of this was a 100-lap race scheduled, and they cut it back because of the monsoon.
Yep.
So this year, they scheduled it for the lesser amount of 75 laps, and they still were dealing with this situation when it came to racing against time. Why? Well, NASCAR basically made their own bet on this.
They did.
They were the ones that started this race at, what was it again, 4:30 p.m. Central Time?
4:30 Eastern, 3:30 Central.
3:30 Central, okay. They made their own bet thinking, okay, 3:30, that'll give us about 5 hours to be able to get the race in. No, you're not giving yourself a margin for error, especially if you're going to red flag a race, really for no reason. Again, we talked about this. You came prepared for running in the wet. But you red flagged it anyway.
Sure.
So NASCAR, you made your own bet. If you want, and you know, this isn't Talladega, this isn't Mid-Ohio, this isn't a racetrack, this is a street course in one of the most populated cities in the United States of America. What does this mean? It means you, NASCAR, no, you can't delay this race to Monday. Ain't going to happen. If you can't get the race in on Sunday, you're not getting the race in because Chicago or Los Angeles or St. Petersburg or Detroit or back when Formula E was running in New York City, they're not going to say, sure, we'll let you close off all those streets for another day. Nope. It ain't going to happen. Sorry. You knew this. You still scheduled this race to start at 3:30 local time.
Sure.
And you delayed it by throwing a red flag. Nope. You're on this, NASCAR. Everyone's sitting there talking about how can NASCAR fix this by, well, why don't we go to timed races? No, why don't we schedule these things to start to give yourself this cushion of extra time? Okay? IndyCar is going out and they're racing in a way where they know how to race in the rain. I don't care whether they're going to a racetrack that has lights or not. They know how to race in the rain. IndyCar, NASCAR should have talked with NBC, who's currently running both of them, and they should have said, flip it. NASCAR leads off, IndyCar follows. This is a scheduling problem. This isn't, oh, we need to break out the stopwatch and we need to get out and talk to the people and say, okay, sunset's going to be at 8:30 in Chicago. We're going to throw the white flag at 8:20. It should never have gotten to that point, NASCAR. Should never have gotten to that point. Plain and simple.
Here's another thing about the Chicago street race that came out yesterday that Adam Stern shared. That apparently is now becoming a problem.
Okay. Can't wait for this one.
The vendors of Grant Park
Okay.
that basically got encompassed and encapsulated within this event. You know, the Grant Park vendors that are there on a weekly basis for the park visitors and so forth. Here's the headline of the article. Grant Park vendors waiting for NASCAR buyout checks are scrambling to pay their rent. Several concessionaires were forced to close for 2 weeks because of the NASCAR street race. They have 3 days to come up with their rent money to pay their bills.
Oof.
Another reason as to why stock cars do not need to be on this street race in this street course.
Yeah, you want to.
Period.
You want to put these guys out there and you want to test them on a road course. Put them on a road course and test them. Why did we leave Road America? Why did we leave Mid-Ohio Sports
I was
Car?
about to say there's a little place right up the road in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin called Road America.
Yeah, I have yet to figure out why we left them. Why did we do it? I mean, if you're not going to go all in on this and make sure you've got the schedule right and you've got all of the people paid correctly, don't do it.
It just doesn't add up.
It really doesn't.
You're leaving very solid facilities to do a gimmick.
Yeah, and it does. It gets them headlines. I get it. It just like transforming a football field into a racetrack. It gets them headlines. But in the end, is that the best use of your money? Is that the best use of your resources, NASCAR?
Nope.
I totally agree. I don't think that it is. Speaking of not really doing the best use of what you have with you, we bring you to the first series, or well, the second series, because we already talked NHRA. And for one of the rare times, we lead off with the Xfinity Series when it comes to talking NASCAR. We noted last week on the show, AM Racing had pulled Hailie Deegan out of the number 15 car for the Chicago Street Race in favor of Joey Logano. Led to speculation, led to a lot of curiosity about what the future of Deegan was going to be. Well, whatever it is, what we know is that it is not with AM Racing, because after the weekend, when Joey Logano, yes, placed the car in the top 10, but had growing pains to do it, we'll get back to that. Monday, the two sides noted she is officially out of the car and now looking for a ride to complete the 2024 season. After the Chicago race, which again, she sat out, she is 28th in Xfinity Series standings. She's been able to get a top 20 finish only 4 times in 17 outings this year. She's only 23. Daughter of noted Extreme Sports star Brian Deegan, came up through the ARCA and Craftsman Truck Series, has a win in, I think, what is it, ARCA West?
2 wins.
Okay, but she didn't win in ARCA. She didn't win in 3 years in the Craftsman Truck Series. The now Ford Performance driver was the 3-time Truck Series Most Popular Driver Award winner. I'll give her that. And I like her. From what I've seen of her in interviews and everything, she seems very approachable. She seems really down to earth. She does seem to have a pretty decent head on her shoulders.
She does. I mean, she's very fan friendly.
Yeah.
I seen her make a 14-year-old blush in Nashville, didn't you, Landon?
So, I got no problem with her winning the most popular driver of the series. Is it 110% warranted? Maybe, maybe not. We can certainly make that argument.
Sure.
But I would love to see her succeed, just like I'd like to see Tony Breidinger succeed and a whole bunch of other drivers. Male, female, doesn't matter. Deegan said of leaving AM Racing in her part of the statement, quote, "There was always several reasons within a race team as to why things do or do not work, but sadly our goals no longer align. It's the only thing that I'm focused on is getting back into being competitive. That's all that matters to me. I'm working as quick as possible to find the best opportunities to get back on the track." AM Racing's statement on pulling Deegan out of the car said in part, quote, "We are grateful for Haley's contribution and dedication as the driver of the number 15 Mustang during her time with the team. We wish Haley the best for her future endeavors and look forward to her continued success on and off the track." So last weekend they go with Joey Logano. This weekend, apparently they're going to be doing the Dale Coyne Racing situation from Indycar and have the revolving door of, hey, who are we going to run this week? For this week, they are going to go with Josh Berry, who is running full-time this year anyway, for Stewart-Haas Racing in the Cup Series. AM Racing, after having watched Hailie Deegan in the primary ARCA Menard Series with no wins,
ARCA National, yep.
and run 3 years in the Truck Series, winning, yes, 3 straight Most Popular Driver Fan Award voted winner, but never winning a race. Worked with Ford Performance, brought her up to the Xfinity Series to run the 15, signing her to a multi-year deal, and gives her half the season before yanking her out of the car and stating she's the problem. Saturday at Chicago, with what you and I said last Saturday morning, this was a test where we were going to find out whether this was the driver or the car. We found out because Joey Logano was on the radio, and remember, you can hear the radio. We found out whether it was the driver or the car.
Yes, we did. Dang, I only got a few minutes. I don't care. If it has to go over, it has to go over.
If we go over, we go over.
He didn't exactly set the world on fire in practice. He was mid-20s in practice out of 40. Mid-20s out of 40. Now, Logano is a 2-time Cup champion. Whatever he sits in, you're going to expect, you would naturally expect it to improve, whether it be a little bit or a lot. This race, they only had a short amount of time, so it improved at a moderate rate. Did he get a top 10 finish? Yes. Was it by straight driving through the field? No. He got it through attrition. Again, I'm not taking away from Joey Logano because he's a multi-time race winner across all 3 series. He's a champion, 2-time Cup champion. He knows what he's doing. Anybody that sits behind a seat and puts a helmet on, you're better. You've got better odds than lower odds of that. You know what you're doing to a degree.
Geez, one would hope.
You would hope so. But when you have a 2-time Cup champion that is driving your car, having to tell your crew chief of your said car and team how air pressures work to make the car either work in a left-hander or a right-hander, ladies and gentlemen, your driver is not the problem. Let me repeat that. Your driver is not the problem. It is going to be your team and your car, because when you go back and you look at, do your homework on this, and you see that they are on their 3rd crew chief of the year so far. I said 3rd. You have a new road crew because your road crew was let go and replaced. I said this Wednesday, and I'm going to say it again. And to any Carolina Panthers fans that may be listening in, I'm sorry, but I don't care. I'm going to say it. Is Wade Moore, the AM Racing team president, is he becoming NASCAR's version of David Tepper? I do believe so.
Looking like it.
Because there is no way in heck that a Stewart-Haas technically aligned team, remember what I said there, a Stewart-Haas technically aligned race team.
And I'm going to do a quick aside here. We can sit here and talk about the Cup Series operation and how they've been lackluster the last couple of years all we want. But you cannot say the same about the Xfinity side of the SHR operation.
Absolutely correct.
They're on it.
They're on their game, and they're up front. You cannot tell me that technical alliance should not be higher than what it is, simply because if an RSS racing car can consistently, and that's not me taking away from Ryan Sieg's driving abilities, if an RSS car can consistently be within the top 20 and top 15 every week, there's no way that they should not be able to do the same.
Agreed.
No way they should not be able to do the same. But if you have to have a driver telling the crew chief how air pressure adjustments work and what adjustments to make to the car,
and having to do it during the race.
Houston, you have a problem.
Yeah. AM Racing, you got a problem, and it wasn't Haley Deegan. It was not Haley Deegan. One more note on the Xfinity Series when we come back. NBC reported their TV ratings. I found them to be actually quite interesting. From there, we're going to go back to talking about Josh Berry because he is one of those SHR drivers who found out a couple of weeks ago team's going away.
And 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back in. Hour number 2 underway. I'm Steve West along with Matt Nicholson. Producer John Myers not able to be with us this weekend. Maybe next. We'll find out. But you won't. Well, you will, but you're not going to be in person.
Yeah, I will be remote next week.
By phone.
Out of town.
Yeah. Xfinity Series race in Chicago. Again, the one that wasn't affected by rain. NBC Sports reports they got their highest ratings for an Xfinity Series broadcast for the network since almost 10 years ago, since 2015. The race, again, won by Shane Van Gisbergen and claimed an average of 1.8 million people watching. It's their biggest number since the season finale of 2015 at Homestead, Miami, and the 4th most watched Xfinity Series race on NBC. You know, just in time for the Xfinity Series to move to the CW.
Well, when you have an event where the racing was as good as it was,
yeah,
that's kind of expected, if you ask me.
And here's the numbers that stick out to me. Again, they claim an average of 1.8 million people watching. That's over the course of the entire race. It's not the highest. It's not the lowest, obviously. It's the average. We've talked about the racing ratings here on this show many, many times, but just as a quick reminder, average NASCAR Cup Series race, 3 to 3.5, maybe up to 4, depending on exactly what the day is and all the how everything works out. So we'll say, since it could get up to 4, we'll put it at 3.5 million. Average run-of-the-mill regular season Cup Series race, about 3.5 million people watch. IndyCar and Formula One tend to battle for second place.
Typically.
In the 1.5 million area.
Mm-hmm.
Which means the Xfinity Series race at Chicago beat that average number last weekend. Is it going to stay that way? No, probably not. Pocono's numbers will probably drop back to their normal of just under 1 million people. But it ain't bad. Not bad at all.
Not at all.
All right, so Josh Berry, again, will fill in for AM Racing in the number 15 car this weekend. As for his crew chief this year at Stewart-Haas Racing, championship-winning crew chief Rodney Childers. Rodney Childers right now, of all the crew chiefs that are in the Cup Series, is the winningest active crew chief. Mm-hmm. Championship with Kevin Harvick 2014 and 40-plus wins, I believe, is the number.
He's actually at 40. He's at 30,
right at 40?
37 with Stewart-Haas and
okay.
3 with MWR.
Okay. When things started to go south at Stewart-Haas Racing, Berry and Childers said that they wanted to stick together as a pair in 2025 and beyond. So when Berry signed with Wood Brothers, which we reported on this show last week, it was also reported by Berry that Childers was slated to talk with the team about moving to the 21 car as well. Well, that didn't last long. Berry's not going to have Childers in his ear past this year, as Childers is signing to Spire Motorsports. He'll take over calling the shots on the 7 car for Corey LaJoie. Reports have the deal with Spire to be a multi-year deal. He'll take over the spot currently held by Ryan Sparks. Sparks has been pulling double duty. Sparks calling the shots on the 7 car, but he's also the company's competition director. Now, with the hiring of Childers, Sparks is going to be able to move into the role fully for 2025. As for Childers, he said of joining Spire, quote, "The thing that attracted me to Spire a lot was that they're investing in the people, and if we're all going to have to run the same parts, then it's the people that are going to make the difference." And the other thing is that Childers has had a really good relationship with the fine folks over at Hendrick Motorsports for a long time, because not necessarily him, but Stewart-Haas Racing has always seemed to have a connection ever since they became a team and formed up, and they were with Chevrolet and they were getting their stuff from Hendrick Motorsports. There's always been this pipeline there.
Yeah, he has a good relationship with Doug Duchardt, team president.
Okay. Well, guess who Spire works with?
That'd be Hendrick.
So that pipeline that we were talking about suddenly works out really well, number one. Number two, he talked about this a lot as well. Last year when Kevin Harvick retired, this was kind of an opening because Kevin Harvick left and a few other guys off of the 4 team, specifically the team that he's calling the shots for at Stewart-Haas Racing. They saw the opening, they left, and he said a whole lot of them went over to Spire.
He said
so it's kind of like a mini family reunion.
Quite a few over there, and he said in his press conference, one of his conferences with himself and Jeff Dickerson was talking, that several of them off the 4 cars this year already too have left and went to Spire, and they were talking about how the culture is over there, how everybody it stays together and works together, and how things get better on a weekly basis. He said that was a lot of the influence of the decision.
I will be interested to see what this does for Spire overall, because I was expecting a little bit more out of this team this year than what we've been getting. Because Corey LaJoie is the leader in that clubhouse. I mean, let's face it.
I was expecting more out of LaJoie.
Yeah.
I'm pleasantly surprised at Hocevar, how consistent he's been, even though whether it be a hiccup there of not of his doing or of his doing, he has a few of them there, but he's been amazingly consistent.
Yeah.
And he's taking care of his stuff.
Yeah.
But Corey's got no excuse now.
I would agree.
He's got no excuse now.
You get a championship-winning crew chief with 40 race wins under his belt. You better be listening to him.
And
you better be listening to him.
There's a link. Let's use the term. There's a link that is developing that he may be getting a champion spotter next year as well. So if he gets the said champion spotter that I think it's going to be, which there's only one that's out there really, and it's Eddie DeHunt, leaving off the 4 car. Yeah.
I'll say this. There is now going to be a very white-hot spotlight put on Spire next year because you think about what they're doing. Next year, Corey LaJoie stays in the 7 car. They get this crew chief to come in and potentially a championship-winning spotter to come in, call the shots on the 7 car. You're getting a guy who really does know how to take care of his stuff to take over the 71 car in Michael McDowell.
Sure.
And then you've got a kid like Carson Hocevar who's coming in, and he's really... Is he tearing the place up? No. But is he impressing? Yes. Now you're setting everything up in and around there to create this entire way of looking at things. You're changing the entire feeling inside the shop, which should create results out on the track. You got a white-hot spotlight on you now, Spire. You better be performing.
And they're doing it making the moves, getting good people in their organization. Now you got to take
it's got to start to show up on the track.
It's got to start to show up there because you got to take the people that you're putting around all of your equipment. You got to supply that equipment to those people where they can mesh the both together and turn it into results.
I like where Spire's going with all their personnel, but I need to see this on the track.
Yeah.
The latest soon-to-be ex-Stewart-Haas Racing driver to sign a deal for 2025 is Noah Gragson. Gragson signed to drive the number 10 Ford for Stewart-Haas Racing this year. He is going to stick to Ford. He's going to move to one of the 2 open seats at Front Row Motorsports. That was a move announced on Wednesday. This is also a multi-year deal. Front Row Motorsports team owner Bob Jenkins said of it, quote, "We feel that this is a great opportunity and the perfect time to bring Noah into our organization. He has just the right amount of experience in the NASCAR Cup Series to be able to break out and become a winner for years to come." This season, Noah started to get the finishes and the race consistently up front, which was expected from him. Joining our team, staying with Ford Performance, and welcoming him to our partners, we are only going to accelerate his opportunity to win races and compete in the playoffs. This is the driver that we wanted to help us get more wins. Now, details were a little lacking. For example, it wasn't stated who was going to be his primary sponsor. It was also not stated which car he was going to drive. And remember, this is kind of important because Front Row Motorsports is buying one of the Stewart-Haas Racing charters, right? It means they're going to be a 3-car operation next year. They currently run full-time the 34 and 38. Todd Gilliland currently drives the 38. We're under the impression he'll probably stick with that number.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yep.
The 3rd charter, it is presumed that they're going to use the number that they have used in the past few years for that 3rd car, the number 36. We talked about this on Crossed Flags as well. What we do know is this. Loves is sticking with Front Row. It's a Front Row sponsor. It's not a Michael McDowell sponsor.
Correct.
So they're going to stick with Front Row Motorsports. They could be a primary for Gragson, but remember, Gragson also has deals that he has, and he brought to Stewart-Haas Racing with him from people like Bass Pro Shops and Ranger Boats and Black Rifle Coffee Company, and that's just a couple of them. So we're certain that those will appear on the car throughout the course of next year as well. But again, we don't know the number, and we don't know who is going to be his primary sponsor throughout the course of the year. Could it be Loves, or do they move to Gilliland, or do they move to this 3rd car, whoever's going to be driving that?
I think, depending on who is going to be the pilot of the 3rd car, I would suspect, and I believe personally, I think Gragson will end up being in the 34, in the flagship car.
Okay.
Because if these murmurs come to life and it ends up being who they say the top 3rd candidate is for the car, which is Sam Mayer, which is questionable to me, he's got a built-in sponsor that he can bring easily.
Sure.
So this is one of those time will tell situations, but I personally think it's going to be Gragson go to the 34 and he will fly the colors of Loves.
Now, we just talked about, for example, Spire Motorsports in what they're getting next year. Corey LaJoie being the veteran that he is, Michael McDowell coming over, Carson Hocevar certainly being a very impressive rookie this year. We're expecting big things on the track next year. Let's presume for a moment that it is Sam Mayer. Todd Gilliland, Noah Gragson, Sam Mayer. Yes, very young, rather inexperienced at this point in time. I mean, really, of the three, I think Noah Gragson's got more Cup starts. So he would be the veteran, so to speak. And he has shown this year that he has grown from what, in my mind, unwarrantedly got him booted out of the car last year at Legacy. But he has shown a maturity. I'll give him that. I mean, we all make stupid mistakes when we're young.
He's definitely grown up this year.
Is he enough, though? Is he actually the leader? Is he that guy right now?
I'm gonna say if,
because he's almost being forced into that role.
Well, I'm gonna say with the front row, the two that you know of next year. Well, I guess kind of blend itself together. Though out of those two, I'm not gonna say it's 1-2. I'm gonna say it's 1A, 1B.
Okay.
They're both on the same level.
This is, I hate to say this because I like Noah Gragson. I like Todd Gilliland.
Yeah.
You know, and Sam Mayer has shown really good flashes of what he's capable of doing over the past couple of years in that junior motorsports entry. But if that's the trio that they have, that's at least, that to me is about a half a step backwards from Michael McDowell.
It really is. But in the sense of Sam Mayer, if I'm Sam Mayer, I think I'm going to just hang on just a little bit longer. Here's why. Because the way you've driven in Xfinity these last couple of years, the way you have progressed these last couple of years, I would sit tight where I'm at and keep evolving, because honestly, if I'm Hendrick Motorsports right now and I'm looking at my pipeline, if I've got a seat to just Elliott, Larson, and Byron are safe.
Yes.
I would say if there's any one of them in question, it's Alex Bowman.
Okay.
Now, Rick Hendrick's been very, very, very loyal to Alex Bowman.
Sure. And so is the sponsor Ally.
Ally has as well. All right.
And that does say a lot. Even for a Hendrick Motorsports, that says a lot.
Sure it does. But if a situation arose to where that 48 car is got a question mark by it for a next season, Sam Mayer's in the one slot, if you ask me.
I can see that.
Because, you know, Justin Allgaier is very happy where he's at.
Yes. And he's already been at the Cup Series level.
Brandon Jones is too up and down.
Yeah.
Way too up and down.
Much too inconsistent for this.
Sammy Smith is still way too green. Way too green.
Yeah, I could see it. Sam Mayer might be the guy.
Sam Mayer is in the one spot for me.
Yeah.
For the next in line in Hendrick.
You know, and put your allegiances of Chevrolet, Ford, and/or Toyota to the side. Just look at the teams. If you're offered a ride by Front Row Motorsports and you're offered a ride at Hendrick Motorsports, which one are you more likely to take?
If it's at the same time, I'm taking Hendrick all day.
So there you go. NASCAR does continue to be pretty hard on some extracurricular activities. We mentioned on the show last week about the fine for Carson Hocevar hitting and spinning John Hunter Nemechek. They docked him 25 championship points, fined him $50,000. The latest to get penalized is one Bubba Wallace. Wallace and Bowman were side by side during the race on the streets of Chicago. When the two made contact, it caused Wallace to spin. After the race, they were on the cool-down lap. Wallace got up beside Bowman, got into the right side of his car. NASCAR looked at it, and we got a picture of it up on CRN Live on YouTube, or will shortly, I guess.
It's up.
They decided to fine Wallace $50,000, but they didn't take away championship points. And this may be why. You think, well, what's the difference between the two? Well, number one, John Hunter Nemechek got spun out, whereas Bowman didn't. But yes, Bowman's wheels did get up off the ground. And his window net was down, and it could be argued probably his seatbelts were off. So it's an unsafe thing, too.
Yeah,
but
seatbelts wasn't off. It was because the window net was down.
Yeah. But I think this had a part of it to do with it as well. Because Alex Bowman said after the race in the media center, quote, "I'd have been mad, too. I ruined his day." The restart was chaotic. I just made every wrong decision I possibly could, and I was fighting with my windshield wiper switch, trying to get the thing working, and I couldn't get it working, so I'm focused on that. Missed the corner, cleaned him out. Talking about Bubba Wallace. I locked up all 4 tires, slid right into him. I just messed up, and I absolutely ruined his day. Bowman was then asked if Wallace should be penalized, and he said, quote, no. He barely hit me. Everything was fine, and it was plenty deserved. Wallace hasn't commented on it, but he is $50,000 poorer. I get the penalty. I do. I get it. You've kind of set a precedence. But at the same time, when the driver who is on the receiving end of this basically said, I'm the one that did it and I deserved it, I think that has said a lot towards why NASCAR did not dock Wallace points.
I think I'm going to hold my statement till after the break. I got a lot to think about this one.
You got 3 minutes to do it. When we come back, we got a team that has been part-time that is ready to come back. They've got a new sponsor, and sponsors have been a bit of a problem for this particular team. We'll talk about it. Plus, you remember those alternate compound tires that we saw at North Wilkesboro for the All-Star race? Is Goodyear working with NASCAR and planning to bring them back? Yeah, they are. We'll tell you where and when and how coming up after the break.
for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
All right, before we start talking about other stuff, we just got done talking about this whole situation with Alex Bowman, Bubba Wallace. Wallace, again, hasn't commented. Bowman said, hey, I deserved it. I wiped him out. It's my fault. I get it. NASCAR fines Wallace $50,000. Doesn't take away any points. Matt, you're up.
Here's what I believe is a classic case of making a mountain out of a molehill right here. Because, if you go back and look, there was another instance that happened on a cool-down lap as well, to where Chase Elliott basically slams Daniel Suarez in very similar fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
I did notice that there wasn't anything done to him.
Not a thing was done to him. Am I defending any action done? No. Because if I was mad, I would probably done the same thing too.
How many times have we seen this over the course of time?
18.
Where a driver on a cool-down lap that's ticked off at another driver doors him.
18,967,405 times.
Approximately.
Mountain made out of a molehill because you got all these people that jump on social media that is anti-Wallace.
That's the big one.
Saying this, saying that. I won't word it that way because I've seen everything under the sun be said about this.
Sure.
Okay. This right here falls on the sanctioning body and the officials making a knee-jerk reaction.
Mm-hmm. I can agree with that.
That is a knee-jerk reaction.
Based upon the picture that we're looking at right here on CRN Live on YouTube, it's only because the wheels were up in the air.
Because when he hit him, he made wheel-to-wheel contact, and it caused his right front to walk up with the left front.
That's it. That's the only reason that happened.
That's all it is.
Because otherwise, there really, like you said, there is no difference between this and what Chase Elliott did.
There's none. None whatsoever. So, again, and I know we've been on a warpath with the officials and sanctioning body lately, and I'm going to stay on it. Stop watching and listening to what things are said on social media, and you use your collective brains, or the lack thereof for some of them, and make a decision based off of what you see and what you think, not what social media thinks needs to happen.
And there's another aspect to this, and I'll say this because I haven't read the rule book and I don't know. And I'm saying this, and I don't know whether you know it either. There are certain rules, though, within NASCAR where penalties can be appealed, and there are certain times when they can't. I don't know whether this is an appealable penalty. I think it is.
It is.
Okay. If I'm the 23 team, based upon what I saw off the 9 team, I might appeal this.
I'll appeal the crap out of it.
I might appeal this.
Appeal the crap out of it.
Let's see, to other action here. NY Racing, remember them? Probably not. They drive the number 44 car, or put the 44 car out there. They're returning to Cup action this weekend at Pocono. They're hoping to qualify for the race with J.J. Yaley behind the wheel, and should, because you and I got talking about this during the break. They
will start.
They will start. The team cites a new sponsor. They've got Ollie's, the largest discount retailer of closeout merchandise and excess inventory in the United States of America. And Pocono is considered the home track for the company. They were founded in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. It's about 2 hours, give or take, from the track. How many more races the team is going to get out of this deal was not stated, but they'll get at least one, and they'll be in this particular race. So we'll have to keep an eye on it and see how they do. Cup Series teams also get the chance to use that alternate compound tire when they head back to race at Richmond next month. The race is going to see the teams with the same choice that we got at North Wilkesboro for the All-Star race, and being a short track, Goodyear will also bring the wet weather tire. Yippee. The alternate compound tire is the softer of the two tires. It means more grip. But unlike North Wilkesboro, here's the deal. Remember, North Wilkesboro just got paved. Brand new pavement just before the All-Star race, and it allowed that softer compound tire to last. Richmond, you and I have been there. Mm-hmm. It's older pavement. Mm-hmm. Tire's going to wear quicker, which means you use the softer compound tire, it ain't going to last, I don't think, a full stage.
I'm going to be interested to see.
Depending on the length of the stages.
I will be interested to see who the first guinea pig is that tries it in practice and sees how long they hold.
Mm-hmm. That's going to be the key right there,
That's
because they're going to put
yeah.
it out there. They're going to. That's where you should too. Put them on the car in practice, drive it like you stole it, and let's see how long those tires will last.
See how long it holds. Yes.
To the IndyCar series, a couple more drivers handed grid spot penalties this weekend. Today's first race of the doubleheader weekend. The two drivers that'll suffer penalties, Graham Rahal and Kiffin Simpson, both have been assessed 9 grid spot penalties for unapproved engine changes. Each had to change engines, which marks their 5th of the year for each, and that's one more, of course, than the rule book allows. Here's your penalty. And we've talked about this before, and we talked about it when it came to the last race. That was on a road or a street course. It's a 5 grid spot penalty on a road or a street course. It's a 9 spot penalty on oval tracks. There's your difference. Speaking of switching out drivers, as we've noted, Dale Coyne with Rick Ware Racing continues to use a turnstile of drivers for the number 51, and the latest getting the chance, Catherine Legg. This will be her second turn in the car. She ran it in the Indy 500. She qualified 29th, finished 31st. Hopefully she'll have better luck.
Maybe so.
We also talked about this earlier on in the show. After having done some testing and noting the repaving done in the corners at Iowa Speedway for the NASCAR weekend, IndyCar, also noting the extra weight that has been added with the addition of the hybrid system, decided to dial back on the downforce for the Iowa Speedway doubleheader weekend. Tino Belli, who's IndyCar's director of aerodynamic development for the series, told media after the debut race for the system last week that they were taken back about 10% of the overall downforce that the cars produce from mid-Ohio to Iowa. This decision was made quickly after the sensors on the suspension showed that the forces that the extra weight of the downforce and the weight was doing to the cars. Then they talked to Firestone about how well the tires held up. Firestone, by the way, bringing a new compound as well. You may not have known this. There are 6 basic settings by the rule book for the rear wing on an Indy car, which is the main downforce factor for the Dallara DW12 chassis. Belli said that they are using setting number 3, taking some of the downforce out of the car. Could actually mean quicker speeds because, again, not just due to the extra power of the hybrid system, but a little bit lower profile rear spoiler. Could mean potential record-setting speeds this weekend. And you were keeping up with it because you noticed some speeds from practice.
Practice yesterday, McLaughlin at the top of the board at Iowa.
Which is a 7/8 mile track, not even a full mile long.
185.89.
That's cooking, boys and girls.
Whiskey Tango Hotel.
Uh-huh. That's cooking. Should be interesting to watch that.
The last place car ran 173.14.
Which is still moving along quite nicely. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That ought to be good. And here's the thing. The title sponsor of these races this weekend on the doubleheader side, Hy-Vee, that Midwestern supermarket chain that is the title sponsor and employee-owned, by the way, they've signed a multi-year agreement to continue as said title sponsor. Company chairman Randy Edeker said, quote, this event has been great for Hy-Vee. He is the executive chairman of the board, just to be fully clear on exactly what his role is. But again, this is an employee-owned company, Hy-Vee Supermarkets is. He went on to say, quote, we look forward to continuing to support this race in Iowa by serving as the title sponsor in the years ahead. We set out to make this a world-class event. We believe the momentum we have created will continue into the future as IndyCar continues to gain more fans year after year. IndyCar's part of the statement said this, quote, we are proud to continue the sponsorship with Hy-Vee and build on the success of Hy-Vee IndyCar race weekend well into the future. I think they do a great job with this. I mean, concerts before and after on both days, and they've made it not just here. Here's a couple of races from IndyCar. They're making this a spectacle. They're making this a destination event. IndyCar and Hy-Vee, both.
They are. I mean, in their Hy-Vee, compared to where the Cup race was, they had the turn 1 and 2 stands and suite area still up. Turn 3 and 4 was not up. Turn 3 and 4 is back up this weekend. So it's actually bad to say, but it looks like the IndyCar crowd at Iowa is going to draw larger than Cup.
And the Cup for the race, that race was considered a sellout.
It sold out in 18 minutes.
Yeah, think about that. So, yeah, this has become an event.
Yeah.
This has become a destination event, not just, oh yeah, there's a race in town. No, it's much more.
Mm-hmm.
Good job on that. We noted Lewis Hamilton claimed the win of the British Grand Prix last weekend, and Sir Lewis Hamilton, let's face it, he's been rewriting the F1 record books for really a few years now. But when he parked his Mercedes racer in victory lane, it was his first win since the 2021 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, which was in December of that particular year in 2021, over 900 days, according to one count. After the race and media sessions, Hamilton noticeably emotional, having had a long embrace with his father, Anthony, and then told media, quote, "Yeah, I can't stop crying. It's been since 2021. I just every day getting up, just trying to fight, trying to train, put my mind to the task, work as hard as I can with this amazing team." And later he was asked if he doubted if he was ever going to win a race again in Formula One, and he replied, "Absolutely." This win in Britain marks the F1 record-setting 104th race win of his career, and it also broke another record. He had been tied with the legend, Michael Schumacher, with which the guy he's most closely aligned with 8 race wins at a particular location. Now he's got that record book all to himself, 9 race wins in one event.
It's a lot.
It is.
It is a lot.
Thing is, while Hamilton's set to move from Mercedes to Ferrari next year, one of those responsible for the Ferrari racers actually is not going to be there. Scuderia's chassis technical director, Enrico Cardile. If I got that wrong, I apologize. He turned in his resignation with immediate effect, stated on Monday. Team principal Fred Vasseur said that he will take on that role while they do a thorough job search for the next person to take it on. This ends an almost 20-year run at Ferrari for Cardile. It was kind of almost as quickly as his resignation from Ferrari had been announced, though. It was announced he was joining Aston Martin. There are rules within Formula One, so it's not like he can go, "Hey, I talked to John Smith over here and I quit working for him. I'm going to go to work for Matt tomorrow." No, can't do that. But he will join Aston Martin. He'll take on the role of chief technical officer. It's the latest move by Aston Martin, who've been hiring away big names from their rivals to join technical operations. And this includes 2 from Mercedes. Reportedly, they're trying to pull Adrian Newey away from Red Bull as well. For Cardile, though, he will not be able to officially join until October and probably won't be able to go to actual race weekends until next year.
Yeah, talking about Newey, I saw last night on the F1 article that was written that Newey is down to either Aston Martin or McLaren who he'll go to.
Either one would be a pretty good choice, truth be told. I might go McLaren just because of what I've seen out of them this year.
He goes to McLaren. I'm going to say McLaren is the new immediate direct threat to Red Bull.
If he goes to Aston Martin, I would expect them to take a jump.
They would take a huge leap.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would dare say they would be a serious threat, if not surpass Mercedes.
I could agree with that. Silly season in Formula One. We're still kind of waiting to see what Williams is going to do. Reports out of Britain state that Williams is, quote unquote, constantly evaluating the idea of replacing one of their drivers before the season is over. That driver on the white hot seat is, of course, Logan Sargent. Sargent, the young American-born driver who's only in his second year with the team in Formula One, but unlike his teammate Alex Albon, has yet to score a championship point. He's been consistently out-qualified by Albon this year as well. All of this has led Williams team principal James Voles to admit after the British Grand Prix, quote, "What we have said to Logan is that it is a meritocracy. You have to make sure you earn your place in this sport continuously." That's been the same message. It's been for 18 months, really, for him, and we are open-minded to things. What I've said before and what I've maintained today is that our car, and this is the responsibility that's on my shoulders and that of the team, is that it isn't quick enough. It's not a driver issue we suffer from today. We've simply been outdeveloped, and we have to make sure we accelerate that process. But even though he tried to take some of the weight off of the shoulders of Logan Sargent, he then turned around and, of course, has said again and again that Williams has been in pursuit, hot pursuit, if you will. Thank you, Buford T. Justice. Of one Carlos Sainz. Voles says that he expects things to begin to happen when it comes to Sainz over the summer break. Logan Sargent's all but out of that car. Just like I honestly feel that Kevin Magnussen is all but out of the Haas F1 ride.
Right.
So will you find another ride? That becomes the question.
Absolutely, it becomes the question.
If it's Kevin Magnussen and I'm somebody over at IndyCar, I'm probably willing to make a call. Logan Sargent, on the other hand, might need to drop down a series or something like that and get some more season.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network.
Whether your pets have fur, feathers,
to the Championship Racing Network.
We are back for one final segment. How did we already get here so fast?
I don't know.
Good night almighty.
Excuse me.
Things over at Haas F1 may continue to switch, and we talked about this earlier on in the show. If you have the chance, go to Formula1.com or go to Racer.com. Both of them have, and I think even Motorsport.com has been covering some of this as well. They've been talking here within the last week and a half about how things have kind of turned over at Haas F1.
Sure.
And you and I mentioned this as well. And maybe it was just the fact that you needed to make a change, because sometimes, you know, as popular as Gunther Steiner is and has been, sometimes you get a guy that's just been there too long.
True. Very, very true.
And so they make a change to this guy whose name I'm not going to try and butcher.
That'd be Ayo Komatsu.
Thank you. And it kind of resets everything for all of the personnel within that company. And he does seem to be making some of the right choices at the right times. In other words, like you said earlier on in the show, we're not just bringing an update to bring an update. We're bringing an update because we feel like this update is actually going to assist us later on down the line.
Mm-hmm.
Could they be switching more? Now, remember, Haas F1's been aligned with Ferrari since they joined the series back in 2016. Could Toyota move into this?
It would make sense.
Please understand, this is merely a rumor. All speculation at this time, but there is a connection here. Toyota Gazoo racing manager Masaya Kaji was seen hanging in and around the Haas F1 garage last weekend of the British Grand Prix. Two sites, neither of which are official for Formula One, report that this could be leading to a collaborative effort with Toyota to help build chassis for Haas F1 in conjunction with the company that Haas F1 has been using to build their chassis since they got into the series, and that's Dallara. You know, that company that we were just talking about that builds all the chassis for IndyCar. This would include, the reports state, the ability to use Toyota's wind tunnel in Cologne, Germany. Right now, they've got to get time when Ferrari's not using it. This gives them a lot more freedom.
It does.
At no time was there mention of Toyota coming back and providing engines, which they have done in Formula One before. The company has no apparent plans to begin to build engines for F1 again at this time. They did in the past from 2002 to 2009, and in those years, no Toyota-powered car won a race. They did claim 17 podiums in 140 starts, 3 poles, and 4 times they had the fastest lap of the race. But really, at this point in time, neither Toyota nor Haas F1 are commenting on any of these links. So that's why we state and we put it out there out front and tell you this every single time. This is rumor and speculation.
It is.
We'll find out whether there's actually anything there.
Time will absolutely tell.
And we already know the 2025 schedule for F1. What they didn't announce was which events were going to be held sprint races in combination. That they did this week. They noted that there will be, once again, 6 sprint races that'll happen in conjunction with F1 Grand Prix next year. They're going to be in China, Miami, Belgium, Austin, Brazil, and Qatar, however you wish to pronounce that. It means that 3 of the final 6 races of the 2025 season are going to have the chance for extra points. The slate also means that 5 of the 6 sprints carry over from this year to next. The one change, Belgium. The Belgian Grand Prix sprint race comes in, takes over the one that this year had been run the weekend of the Austrian Grand Prix just a couple of weeks ago. At this time, the format for the race remains the same. We talk about the extra points that are available. Points remain the same as well, at least according to what we've seen from Formula One so far. It'll be doled out to the top 8 finishers in the sprint event. Now, if you're a car collector or if you know anything about cars at all, you know that the smaller the number of cars that were built, the more money they're worth. For example, just ask the owner of a, 1972 Hemi Cuda with a row-it-yourself transmission. How about one of 50? Red Bull's got one of those. They're showing it off this weekend, and we're showing it off on CRN Live on YouTube. It's a car the company is nicknamed or codenamed RB17, and they say it's kind of a best-of homage to Adrian Newey. Newey this year has kind of moved away from helping out on the Formula One car itself, and since the beginning of this year has been the main person helping make this car become a reality. It is something of a street-legal car. It's a 2-seat hypercar, mid-engine design, carbon fiber monocoque chassis, carbon fiber transmission. That's new. In a rear-wheel drive car. V10 engine, set output, about 1,000 horsepower.
Ladies and gentlemen, a 2026 entry into the 24 Hours of Le Mans.
It's going to be on hand on this weekend's noted Goodwood Festival of Speed over in Britain. Will the car with a reported top speed of 250 to 220 miles per hour be taken up the hill this weekend? We have not got a report on that, but it is interesting to note.
It is not.
Yeah, that's sad. But it is interesting to note several current and past Red Bull drivers going to be on hand. I'm sure the temptation's going to be there. Of course, if you have to ask how much it's going to cost you, you can't afford it. I know I can't. But just for the giggles of the whole thing, if you were going to buy one, Jay Leno, it'll reportedly set you back 5 million euros, or about $6.2 million US.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you a vehicle I would love to lay my right foot behind just one time.
Yeah. Good night almighty.
Hey,
And here's one of those things. I could probably pour myself into that. I would need a crane to get out.
I would find a way in and find a way out. If I found a way in, I may just camp out there.
There you go.
But I do know there are cargo jets that come from Europe to Birmingham now. So I'm sure there could be room be made for one on a 747 to get over here from England.
Talladega.
And can't say this anymore, but hey, Brian, we need a test run.
Mm-hmm.
See how fast this car will go.
I want to be there for that.
I do too.
ESPN celebrated Sports Thursday evening. We're not going to get into too many details. We're going to deal with the two categories that affect us here on this show. Cup Series champion Ryan Blaney was on hand. He was in New York or L.A. or wherever it was that they handed out this award for the best record-breaking performance, of which Red Bull driver Max Verstappen was a candidate. He didn't win. WNBA player Caitlin Clark won for setting the new women's college basketball all-time scoring record last year. As for the only award actually devoted to motorsports, Best Driver, Verstappen again nominated up against funny car pilot Matt Hagan, IndyCar's champ Alex Palou, and the aforementioned Blaney. Verstappen did win that one, and I'm sure we're all shocked by that.
Yeah, color me shocked.
To the Craftsman Truck Series, where Connor Daly continues to race, continues to seek a full-time ride. Driver who may actually be most notable for his IndyCar exploits, but does have 3 Craftsman Truck Series starts to his credit, has also raced in the ARCA Menard Series as he kind of expands out his opportunities. He just signed a 3-race deal with Nice Motorsports. He's going to drive their number 44 Chevy truck later this year in 3 events. The 32-year-old Indiana native going to get starts at Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park next weekend, and later is set to get starts at Kansas and Homestead Miami Speedway if he can qualify for them. Power Plus will be a sponsor for all 3 races. Nice Motorsports puts out a pretty good truck, and Connor Daly's a pretty good driver. I would say he probably can work his way in.
This is the 4th Nice entry that will be entered into the respective races. Talking about Connor, he'll actually pull off his first doubleheader in NASCAR because he got signed to drive the 26 Sam Hunt car for the Xfinity race at the Big Oval next week, too.
Yeah.
So this one will be intriguing to watch. To see how he does on this short track.
Yeah, and he's just one of the latest number of drivers that can't get full-time in IndyCar. You're more than happy to go over there and try NASCAR and see what you can get over there. His best finish so far in the Truck Series did come last year at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, where he finished 18th and tied the finish of his first ever start in the series back in 2020 in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
The Faction 46 team apparently is no more. Driver and team owner parted ways a few weeks ago. Lane Moore, who owns the team, and the driver Thad Moffitt, according to Moffitt, have amicably parted ways. We all say that. Moffitt was able to keep his familiar number 46 in the overall look of the truck, and that is important because Young's Motorsports came calling. And they're going to put him back in the number 46 truck and put him back out on the track. Moffitt behind the wheel with at least through the remainder of 2024, the reports state. Moffitt said of this particular move, quote, "This is the reset that I need. I've raced for Tyler and Young's Motorsports in the past. We have a great relationship. He made this transition easy for us, and he has the team and the equipment for us to go to Pocono and immediately have a great race. It's a quick move for everyone, but I feel good about it." Partners that he had while he was at Faction 46 apparently were his and not the team's. Clean Harbors, Safety Clean, Customers Bank, Window World, Restaurant Depot, and others will continue as sponsors for Thad Moffitt on the ride. And this is his rookie year in the Craftsman Truck Series, but he currently sits 30th in points, only 106 points on the season to date.
For the first time this year, yesterday, he actually finished on the lead lap of a race and finished all the race.
And I think, all due respect to Lane Moore and all that, but I think Lane Moore bit off more than he could chew. Young's Motorsports, they have the basic infrastructure needed to help this become, if not a winning car or truck, certainly something that can do what he showed he can do yesterday on the track, which is finish on the lead lap.
This was basically Tyler Young acquired the number and got all the sponsors and everything from the 46 truck because the 46 is basically just shut the house down.
Yeah.
He acquired it, and now they took the 46 truck and turned it into what was the 20 truck.
Okay.
So now they got the 02 and the 46.
Okay. So. And we talked about this early on, and we're getting into playoff scenarios in the Truck Series. That's how close we are into getting into the playoffs here. Truck Series is now already in position to where drivers who even haven't won a race yet this year could actually begin to clinch. And there was one driver who could have clinched a spot yesterday on points based upon the finish if there had been a repeat winner, which we got, or a driver who was not eligible for the series playoffs. The driver was Ty Majeski. Under the scenario, if, as happened, Corey Heim won his 5th race of the year, Majeski needed to score 45 points. Unfortunately, he didn't, and he wasn't able to do it any other way, but he's that much closer, and it'll be that much easier next race out, which is next weekend in Indianapolis, for him to be able to clinch on points. So we'll find out how well he does. Couple of notes from NASCAR here. Finally, NASCAR take the cover off of their all-electric concept car in complete racing regalia at Chicago last weekend. You can look at it right now on CRN Live on YouTube if you want. This is the very same thing that we talked about a couple of months ago, and just like the first time around, this caused a whole lot of anger on social media for no reason, and hand-wringing for exactly the same no reason. So here's an open letter right here on the air to all those people who are listening, watching, and or checking this thing out on social media who are nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs, and you are in need of a Valium. This is only an exercise, folks.
And now Steve's turn.
Plain and simple. This is only an exercise. NASCAR's putting this thing out there to see what it might be like. And understand this. This is specifically put out there on a platform made to look like an SUV body style for a reason. They're just kind of throwing a test balloon out there. They're trying to see if this is viable. They're trying to see if there is any interest whatsoever. If there is, and if this becomes a racer under the NASCAR banner, it will be a separate series. This isn't replacing the Cup Series. This isn't replacing the Xfinity Series. This isn't replacing the Craftsman Truck Series. It'll be a standalone all by itself, over in the corner, wanting to be viable. NASCAR's working with ABB. If that sounds familiar, it's because they're the title sponsor of the Formula E Series. They're a global leader in electrification and automation. That's their words, not mine. NASCAR insists they are, quote, committed to the historic role of the combustion engine in racing, unquote. Same people that built the Gen 7 and the Garage 56 entry for Le Mans last year worked on this racer. It is a four-wheel drive Gen 7 chassis racer, but again, has the crossover utility vehicle body. I mean, I've been asking this ever since we started seeing the number of SUVs, the smaller, compact SUVs that have been populating the roads all across America. I've been asking when we might see this on racetracks. Mm-hmm. If it's going to happen, it looks like it's going to happen this way. Mm-hmm. This racer can reportedly produce about 1,000 kilowatts at peak power, regenerative braking, converting the kinetic energy into battery power. Car could be used on road courses and short oval tracks, but it's still, again, in the development stage. It is still in testing. Well, that's not getting our undies in a wad anyway. Cup Series isn't going away in its current form, not anytime too soon anyway, and I'll probably be on the other side of the dirt when the Cup Series finally does, so deal with it. One more note here, and this goes to the television side of things. For 2025, obviously we got Fox Sports and the Truck Series. Probably not much is going to change there. CW for the Xfinity Series, they get the entire year, remember. And then you get this combination, Fox, Amazon Prime, the WB Discovery deal, plus NBC. And all of these are kind of still working on who's going to be calling races. According to the Sports Business Journal, names have been bandied about. Adam Alexander, who currently works with Fox Sports, is considered a hot commodity by the CW to be their lead announcer for the Xfinity Series next year. That'd be a nice call. Mm-hmm. Also a name being talked about, Marty Smith. I love this thought. Longtime ESPN NASCAR motorsports reporter, but with ABC ESPN not really doing much in the motorsports world anymore. Yeah, I'm telling you, you're basically ignoring him, ESPN. Smith, who also does work for the ESPN-owned SEC network, could be moving or at least be loaned out to either Amazon Prime or WB Discovery. Probably not CW. So that means he would get some Cup Series stuff. That'd be pretty cool. There's NBC's Steve Letarte. Again, he currently works for NBC Sports, but he's also been talking with both Amazon Prime and WB Discovery to maybe move to them to cover the Cup Series. But reports also have him talking about moving to the CW to be full-time in Xfinity Series coverage. So we got all these new entities coming into NASCAR broadcasting. Expect a pretty good amount of movement. Fox Sports seems to be the only one that's locked in. Mike Joy is your lead announcer for the Cup, along with Clint Boyer and Kevin Harvick in the booth. Otherwise, we could see a whole lot of movement.
Be interested to see how it moves.
And I'm just going to throw it out there on the part of myself and producer John to WB, Amazon, NBC, CW, heck, even Fox Sports. We're available. We've been there.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
WDNG 1450 AM
and W236 CQ 95.1 FM Anniston.
95.1 The Mountain.
Anniston Oxford's classic station.
Here is the latest weather from Alabama's meteorologist James Spann, brought to you by Bucks Island Marine of Southside, your authorized Crest pontoon dealer with full boat repair. Don't get a boat until you get a Bucks quote.
The weather stays hot and dry today, sunny with a high at 97. Mostly fair tonight, the low 75. For tomorrow and Monday, the sky partially sunny both days with only a small chance of a shower. Highs between 96 and 99. And Tuesday, partly sunny. The chance of a shower stays small. The high 96. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on 95.